Police in Texas are searching for a motive behind the deadliest mass shooting in the state's history. At least 26 people were killed when the suspected gunman, 26-year-old Devin Patrick Kelley, opened fire on the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs yesterday. Officials say 20 others were injured. The youngest victim is 18 months old. The oldest is 77. We now know that the suspect's mother-in-law attended the church. Authorities say there was a domestic situation going on within the family. David Katz is here with me. He is a former U.S. federal agent and president of Global Security Group, CEO of Global Security Group. My apologies. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So CBS News has learned, David, that the suspect received what's known as a bad conduct discharge after allegedly assaulting his wife and child back in 2012. This attack targeted young children at the church. What's the pattern here, and why was he able to purchase firearms if he had this domestic disturbance or this domestic abuse allegation?
That is exactly the question that needs to be answered, because there's two disqualifying factors. Number one, apparently did a year in jail in the military. So the military doesn't define offenses in terms of felony and misdemeanor, but typically the definition we use is if you're incarcerated for a year or more, you've committed a felony. That would automatically disqualify you from ever owning a firearm. On top of that, it was a crime of domestic violence, which according to federal law also disqualifies you for ever owning or possessing a firearm. So my guess, and I don't know for sure, is that for some reason the military charges don't translate into the, or don't come up on the NCIC printout that an FBI background check would reveal. That is outrageous, and that's got to change.
One of the things that I was surprised to learn when I was covering the massacre in Las Vegas is the FBI has statistics on these mass shooters, and they say that almost 80% of the people who commit these heinous acts either tell somebody or give significant warning signs. Not just that they're loners or they don't have a lot of friends, but they actually, in many instances, will tell somebody either through something that is written on social media, something that they post on their Facebook pages, or that they write in their diaries. And that in those instances, some 40% or more of the people who they tell never raise the alarm.
That's an extraordinarily good point. We do a lot of training on active shooter here in the city and throughout the country. I had one client at a hospital after Bronx, Lebanon. They fired somebody, and the shooter told a group of females in HR that tomorrow, make sure your hair and makeup is done nicely. And they said, why? Because tomorrow I'm coming back and shooting everybody. They told nobody for a number of hours. So even in a situation like that, which was, I mean, an absolutely explicit threat, people for some reason are reluctant to bring it to anyone's attention. That has to change, because in many, we know, as you said, 80%, and probably it's even higher than that, somebody knows something. There was some threat that was not acted upon. So that's something we have to start taking seriously. If someone gives you or makes a statement that they're going to commit an act of violence, take them at their word and report it. At least at the minimum, contact the police, make a report, and let them evaluate the situation.
And there's so many other things. I mean, the discussion largely over the last 24 hours has been around gun control and mental health, but I'd perhaps suggest that there needs to be a discussion around people who commit acts of domestic abuse, of domestic violence. In other words, how often do we hear a woman say, he's going to kill me because he's threatened me with violence, or he has committed acts of violence, and people say, well, just, move away, or don't talk to him if you run into him. And then we find out later that that person
lost their life.
Right.
Sure. In New York City, for example, if the police respond to an incident of domestic violence, it is a must arrest. There is no, well, the wife says I decided not to press charges against my husband. There's no choice. They have to take that person into custody. We have to make some adjustments here. Number one, if you are convicted of a crime of domestic violence, you can't own a firearm anyway. So I want to know what happened, or what was the failure in the reporting process where a person who, number one, is not only violent to his wife but also to his children. How does that not get reported, and how is that that conviction not apparent for anyone who's going to evaluate whether to sell this person a firearm? It's just I can't even believe that still happens.
There's a report that came to us from the press conference that police held, which suggests that he used his cell phone, the suspected killer, to call his father after he had been shot when he was in the car. But he was wearing all the ballistic gear. He was wearing all that tactical gear. The phone call to his father, where he told his father he didn't think he was going to make it. Does that suggest to you that he thought he was going to make it?
He tried to get away.
Tried to get away.
I mean, I don't think he had. I mean, in most of these cases, the shooter ends up. It terminates with shooter suicide. So he apparently had an escape plan already laid out, and he tried to get away. So. And he wore a vest. Vest contemplates that one of two things: either you're trying to survive the incident, or at least you're trying to delay being put down so you can kill as many people as possible. My guess is he thought he was going to make it out of there.
David Katz, thank you very much for your analysis. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.